Hi, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down cloud architecture. We're covering four things: why businesses actually care about the cloud, what cloud architecture patterns look like, how service load balancing works, and how redundant storage keeps your data safe. Now, let's get into it. So, the first question, what are the business benefits of cloud computing? What's what's in it for the business? So, there are four big wins, which I've discussed in a previous video. So, of course, lower costs, because instead of buying racks of servers, they can rent computing power, so it's an operating expense, not a huge upfront purchase. And then it scales on demand. If the business's website suddenly booms in traffic, the cloud could just expand to handle it. And when it goes back to normal, or like goes lower than normal, it shrinks back. And yeah, you're never, like, the businesses are never ever stuck overbuying for a worst case that rarely even happens. And three, it faster time to market. New products and features can go live in minutes because you're not waiting on a physical hardware. And then reliability, which I've discussed multiple times in the past, because cloud providers build in backups and duplicate systems. So if a machine dies, a customer barely notices because, again, there are backups. And if they're not backups, there are backups. And a few more perks worth knowing is teams get to focus on the actual product instead of maintaining the annoying servers, because global reach means the app can be fast for a customer in Sydney and a customer in the Philippines at the same time, because data centers are spread worldwide. So I can access this here in Sydney, or I can access it back home in Manila. Disaster recovery is basically built in because the data gets backed up automatically, and security risks get shared with the provider who has entire teams dedicated to it. Bottom line is, cloud architecture turns big upfront IT spending into flexible, pay as you grow costs while making the business faster and more resilient, which is really, really beneficial for business owners. And then, what are the examples of cloud architecture? So, what does cloud architecture actually mean in practice? Um, it's basically a toolbox of reusable design patterns that engineers mix and match. You've got workload distribution, which spreads work around so nothing gets overloaded. Resource pooling, sharing a big pool of resources across many users. Dynamic scalability and elastic resource capacity, both about automatically growing or shrinking with what you're using. As mentioned before, how that is really beneficial for businesses. And then cloud bursting, where you only spill over into the cloud when your own servers max out, and the hypervisor clustering for high availability. Two patterns are worth going deeper on: the service load balancing and redundant storage. Now let's cover that both. So, the service load balancing architecture, what is that? Okay, think of this. You run the same app on three identical servers instead of one. A load balancer sits in front of all of them like a traffic cop. So, like, just think of it like Facebook. Like, a lot of people use this, and so because of that, the company had, like, Meta has to have three identical servers, for example, instead of one, because to balance that load. Yeah. So every request from a user hits the load balancer first, not any single server directly. The load balancer looks at which server instance is least busy or healthiest right now and sends the request there. There's two huge things. It prevents any server any one server from getting overwhelmed, and if one server crashes, the load balancer just quietly stops sending traffic to it and routes everyone to the healthy ones the user never even notices. That's why a flash sale on a shopping site doesn't crash the whole store. The load balancer is spread the crowd across multiple servers behind the scenes, which is really great. For example, if you're on Shopee, Shopee is like the Amazon of the Philippines kind of. It's an online shopping platform. Like when there's a sale at like 12, a lot of people tend to buy stuff. Like a lot of people tend, there's a lot of traffic basically on the app. And having a load balancer, it just spreads the crowd across multiple services, which is really helpful, and it's really good because Shopee will have a more reputable more reputable like reputable reputable app because it doesn't crash the when everyone's on it. Anyways, moving on to the redundant storage. The idea is simple. Never just keep one copy of important data. You've got a primary storage device holding the original data. Data gets automatically replicated or copied to a secondary storage device, often a completely different physical location or data center. A storage gateway keeps these two copies in sync, and here's the main or like key part. If the primary storage ever fails, the system automatically fails over to the backup copy and users don't notice any interruption, which is really, really reliable. This buys you three things. High availability, meaning data stays accessible even during a failure. Durability, meaning you basically never permanently lose data. And disaster recovery, because if an entire data center goes down, fire, flood, power outage, you name it, the copy somewhere else keeps you running, which is really reliable. Um, a great example could be an online banking like Combank or NAB. Your transaction history is replicated across at least two separate data centers, so even a full outage at one location doesn't touch your account data. So to wrap wrap that up about redundant storage, it isn't free. You're paying for extra storage space since you're keeping multiple copies, and if the replication happens asynchronously, the backup might lag slightly behind the primary. Still, for anything business critical like that, for like the banking example I said earlier, it's a trade worth making every time because because it has a copy of the data that's really important. I think a little bit of lag is fine. And surely in the near future they will mitigate this, like have a solution for this. And that's everything today. Like to conclude, like a quick recap for you guys. Businesses love the cloud because it saves a lot and the scalability and the speed and the reliability. Basically, cloud architecture is a toolbox of patterns like load balancing and redundant storage. Load balancing spreads traffic across multiple services, copies so nothing overloads, and redundant storage keeps duplicate data copies so nothing gets lost, which is really helpful and reliable if you are a business. So, yeah, I think that covers everything. Every question was answered for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Shayrina Glenadera, ID number K240664, and this is my video presentation for COD and Beyond. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!